Who are you and why do we care?
Well, my name is Seth Redelheim. I'm the Director of Racket Sports at the Westlake Country Club in Augusta, Georgia. And the reason you should care is because I have a wealth of tennis experience, years of working in Atlanta and years working in Chicago in a big corporate club up there, and just lots of on court and in the office experience that I love to share.
Like, I thought you were going to go straight to the award, but
I
you didn't.
know,
So
I
I,
know.
I'll
Well,
give
I
you
didn't,
credit for
I was
that.
hoping you were going to mention it.
Well, again, we could do that because that's one of the reasons we care today, this time, as to why we're talking to you, is because you have won the Director of the Year award from USTA Georgia.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, indeed. I think this year was unique. I had a bit of a tailwind this year with the hurricane relief and things that we've done here at the club. Hurricane Helene hit Augusta really, really hard in end of September last year. And so this entire year has been rebuilding programs, rebuilding the club. I know that just our golf course lost over 1,000 trees. It was a crazy six or 8 months after the hurricane before we were anywhere close to back to normal. So I think that gave me a big tailwind for the award this year and gave us lots of stuff that we could toot our horn about.
Well, that's interesting you call it a tailwind because I think most people would call it an impossible thing to overcome to say, well, I'm not going to win director this year because all my windscreens are broken.
I mean, I don't want to be self-deprecating, but I feel like I might have gotten the pity vote for that, for the hurricane, you know?
Man, look what he did with that. That's fantastic. All right. So tell us about, we know a little bit about you, those that have listened to the podcast before, because you were on our summer camp roundtable. So we got to learn what you were doing from a summer camp perspective, but now your focus is a bit different because as director of a country club, you're not necessarily running summer camps in the same way you were in Atlanta. What is the difference now? 2 years ago, you're running summer camps in Atlanta, focused on kids, multi sport concepts, and now you are director of racket sports at Westlake. What does that look like for you?
It is, I think, a little easier. You have the country club model, you have a captive audience, you've got sort of built-in promotions, teams, and built-in, kind of the weekly update emails and all of this stuff that's controlled club wide makes it a lot easier for us. We promote mostly inside the club. The tennis program here actually is the one section of the club that is open to non-members, but we don't really advertise that. It's mostly members who can bring guests, so we allow members to bring their friends. And especially within the junior program, we want all the kids playing all the time. So we'll take all comers. And so summer camp was a huge success in that we ran it every week. We had our developmental and our competitive camps. We had, probably anywhere from 8 to 15 kids. It was small. It was easy to manage. And it was, it was a lot of fun. And I think we were able to, and we still ran the developmental camp as a multi-sport camp. We did tennis every day, but then we added pickleball 1 day a week, pool 2 days a week, and basketball, frisbee golf, kickball, like, sort of a multi-sport element on all the different days. But then, I think again, it was easier than in past years. I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of competition around me, but then I also had this built-in clientele for the club. That's always fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Bobby, are you just looking at it going, man, I don't want to do summer camps at all?
Well, what I liked, I mean, just from my experience when I was at White Columns, that they didn't let, especially when it comes to the juniors, they did not let outside kids in. And it's next to impossible to have any kind of competitive junior program if you're not allowing outside members in. So kudos to the club for having some open-mindedness there, realizing it's awfully tough on a director when if you're giving them, oh, here's your 20 kids, good luck to you.
Right. True. And that's something in Atlanta that is very unique. When I was at Druid Hills, it was entirely members and it was enormous. I mean, we had over 100 kids in the program, all members. And that just does not happen down here, certainly in Augusta and with very few exceptions, even in Atlanta. So it's a good thing.
And this isn't the first time you've won an award. You won a Southern Pro of the Year from USPTA, now RSPA at one point, right?
I did. That was 2022. That was a great year. I was at Atlanta Athletic Club that year, and had done, let's see, I think the things that went into that award were like a 2-5 team that won the state championship that I had cultivated. And then I presented at the USPTA Georgia convention or the symposium that year, and there were some other things. But yeah, that was a really good year too. That was a fun one.
So, if I can throw in an unscripted question, we recently did a forum about awards. And it's one thing to win an award, it's another thing to win 2 awards in 3 years. And so from your perspective, what do the awards do for you? There are a lot of coaches out there that say, I don't really care about awards, but often those are the coaches that don't win awards. And so they just pretend, like, there you go, like Bobby, right? So it's like, well, I'm never going to win an award. So I'm going to pretend not to care. Like we go in all 7-year-old mode. Like I'm not even trying, right? But what do you think is the benefit of some of these awards? Because you're also a DCA member, you're well connected, you've got your certified Doctor of Racket Sports. That was the Florida program. Am I
Right, exactly right.
getting that
Yeah,
right?
the UF program. I really had to apologize to my mom. She's a Seminole, so I had to apologize when I enrolled at Florida. And, um,
Yeah.
I
So
actually,
you've done
I
all the
missed
right
that.
things.
Sorry.
I said you've done all the right things, and winning the awards, do you think the award helps you get the next job? What do you, from a pro perspective, from a director's perspective, or just an industry professional, how do the awards, what do they do for you?
So I hope that it's not just to get the next job. I think that anyone who would say that, I think, is in it certainly for the wrong reason. What I like about it is really just sort of an accounting part of it. I think that being able to keep track of the things that you're proud of for yourself, the things that are worthy of accomplishment and worthy of writing down. I think some people don't remember and don't realize the impact they're having. And so some of these awards, I think the USPTA one, I self-nominated, and they actually encourage that. They tell you to, like, you know yourself best. Why don't you submit your summary of accomplishments for the year and tell us what you did? And so that kind of stuff, I think it helps us look back and go, okay, I really did. I did have a good year. I think that helps us keep track and keeps us in the game for the right reasons. This one was a surprise. I don't know who nominated me this time. So it feels better this time. It's really interesting. I think that it doesn't change what I'm doing and sort of what I want to do in the role, but it's really nice for the members to see that too. And I think that the outpouring of support I've seen from the membership, where they see it on Facebook or wherever they saw it, and people have been texting me, calling. Every person I see congratulates me, and they're really proud of it too. So I think that's something for them. Before I got here, there wasn't a very dedicated director position. And so now for me to come here and in my first year to bring that home is really good for them to see also, because now they know what it looks like to have somebody at the helm and to have somebody who's, just steering the ship. I think they never really had that before here.
I like that. Now, Bobby, as someone who don't really care about awards, I'm putting words in your mouth there. What are your thoughts on awards and kind of from that perspective?
Oh, I mean, hey, if you get it, congratulations. I mean, it's great to be recognized by your peers. There's absolutely no question, and it's good to be in an environment that you're appreciated as much so, and people recognize the work that you're putting in to get the award. So I think that's a great, is just as equal as having something to put on the wall is the thanks and appreciation from the people that realize the work you put into to earn it. So hey, I have no problem with it. It's my first tennis program at White Combs. Remember, it was the old, if nobody complains, or if I don't get a phone call, you're running a good program. The ball was really low. The bar wasn't real high
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you know,
What was I
and I'm
missed
just
that.
excited to hear that they play tennis in Augusta. So that's,
Mhm.
you got a lot of nice golf courses down there. So it's good to
That's
see
right.
tennis
That's
is
right.
being played.
Absolutely. And that is a big deal too. I think that within the company that owns Westlake is called Concert Golf Partners, and they own, I want to say, 40 or 41 clubs now. And they are hugely golf focused, as most Club Corp and the other corporations are. But I think they've been very supportive as well, and they put it up on their social media, and I think that's a good thing too, because it does help the other tennis directors, even within the company, that they get a little boost, and they see, all right, tennis as an amenity, doesn't have to take a back seat. We add value to the club. We add, sort of it's an amazing thing that the members really do want and really do appreciate.
Yeah, and there's an elevation. I really don't like that word, but there's a profile of the club, of the director, of the program that says, okay, this is good. Now the question is, does your head pro then see that and then want to be a part of the next thing? Or does that make someone else work harder the next year? And I want to create an award winning pro. And how does that look? And that really encourages some, but then others are like that 7-year-old, like, I'm not even trying. Why do I care? Bobby says the bar is so low, there's no reason to care because you're kind of spinning your wheels at times. Sometimes maybe that's a top-down problem from a club or a location facility.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I think that's, the people below you certainly know what you what you value and what you appreciate, and I think that it should trickle down. I think that's part of club culture. And if the director sets that, and sets it a certain way, then it, for better or worse, it can absolutely affect the people below you. So, I'm sorry to say that I missed that chat and chew when it was on the awards. It was, did Manelli lead that one, or was that what was the
That was,
consensus
yeah,
during that one?
that was Andrew Manelli. That was actually our biggest one of the year so far a from a participation standpoint. We had people from all over the country, and it was really, really good because we got to ask the question, why do awards exist? When do they become important? And how do they motivate people to be better? Is there a state level and a sectional level and then a national level where you are benefiting from either speaking engagements or being recognized as a thought leader beyond just a tennis coach? Because once you get to the point that you're running a club, Bobby will tell you, doesn't matter how good of a player you are anymore, obviously minimum requirements, of course, but it also, from that standpoint, teaching lessons is what you end up rarely doing. We talked to Matt Grayson recently, who says he's almost rarely on court. So you've got some directors at a level that it isn't about being on court. They're almost not even a tennis coach anymore. And when you look at the landscape of everything happening and saying, hey, I am an award winning, I produce awards for the club that I work for,
Mhm.
that is going to be good for that next job, whether you're doing it for that or not.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't disagree with that. And I think I am fortunate where I'm falling right in the middle of that zone where I am young enough to teach and I love being on court, but I'm now spending way more time in the office also. And so it's like you know, I don't know where that's going to lead me in 5 to 10 years, but luckily I'm not quite there in the director role. And this club was attractive because of that. Like I knew coming into this job that there was still going to be plenty of on court. And I think that's still where I have the most fun. Like I love sitting in the office. I love planning events. I love doing that stuff and, coordinating even just the maintenance of the club. I think I'm proud of the impact I've made just in the way it looks around here. And that kind of stuff is good, but the encore stuff is the most fun for me. So as long as I can do that, I still want to.
Bobby, would you run a club without being on court? Because you say you're in this business because you just like hitting the ball.
It would be tough. I would have to be in the right environment with the right group because I like the drills. I like to be a part of that. And I shouldn't say the clubs I've been at, it's required it. So that's the way as Seth said, I set the culture. That's the way we propagated the culture is by being out there playing the music and getting enthusiasm. And like I said, and you don't, it's hard to say you in this business. Somebody once heard me say, well, I'm not in this business for the money. And somebody took it that I was independently wealthy. And I was like, no, I mean, if I wanted to be wealthy, I would have gone into another business. So that's not it. But, as Seth said, again, Windermere, we've done an awful lot of things to improve the facility even though I'm not getting credit for that, there is a degree of, well, it's very popular, it's being used. We need to make these changes. So you can look at it and say, we did have an impact. And on top of making the people's lives hopefully a little more fun, is basically what, the culture we try to create. But that's the way I get to be hands on with the people. In an office, I would probably demonstrate my ADD and getting myself in trouble.
You're looking at my cork board, aren't you? It's a bit of a mess around here. I didn't put the background on, but I probably should have.
No, I
No,
mean,
that's
hey, I'm still legal pad, man. I'm like, I'm pen and paper. So
which is hilarious because as Go Tennis, we encourage people to embrace technology, but Bobby is still one to use the pencil, which we, one of our first podcast episodes was you still use a pencil? That's insane. Like with all the technology out there. But so Seth, kind of last thing before we hit you with King of Tennis, what do you think is next when it comes to the evolution of the director of tennis? So another kind of an unscripted question. I'll put you on the spot a little bit. You're one who you've done the extra education. You've got multiple certifications. From the look at all the letters after your name, the only thing missing there is USTA. I'm guessing that's
It's
but
there. I'm
what's
not
the
wearing the hat today, but it's there. I've already joined up with
it's there.
USD
Okay,
Georgia.
good. Making sure we're not
Well, and
leaving
I
the
think
big dog out.
yeah, I'm sure you know Craig Jones, who is now like I don't know his exact title, but he's in charge of the coach developers for USTA and is a huge part of this huge rollout for USTA coaching. And Craig Jones, was here in Augusta and owned a club less than a mile from where I'm sitting right now. And so his old club is now a public facility called Columbia County Racket Center, and he built a fantastic program over there. And he's that's sort of our local competition. A lot that's the public facility that we send a lot of players to as they age out of our programs and things like that. We share a lot of clientele with that facility. So Craig's done an incredible job, and of course I jumped on board with USDA coaching as soon as it rolled out, and I'm anxious to see where that goes. But I think that the evolution of the position is a hybrid position. I mean, the director of racket sports is the new position, and everything that we're doing is encouraging more play across that whole spectrum. And anybody who sort of denies it or tries to blacklist one or any of the sports is robbing themselves of clients, of just general enthusiasm for the industry. I think it doesn't help anybody if you're going to put down one sport over another. I still prefer tennis. It's still it's my first choice and my favorite, but we have a big pickleball program here. We've spent a lot of money on pickleball this year. From an infrastructure standpoint, we added 4 more courts plus a large patio and seating like spectator area and plan to host, big tournaments and things like that. Paddle is still, incredibly, like, I'm very, very excited about paddle. And I heard the magic words a couple months ago in one of our department head meetings, go get estimates. And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. So we'll see where that goes in the next probably 18 months and see if we can do something about that. But it is exciting, and I love all of it. And I have no problem, telling anybody tennis is my favorite, but I certainly would not discourage anyone from doing any of the other sports. And the only thing that makes me mad as a former racquetball player, I grew up playing racquetball before I ever touched a tennis racket. And I asked Brian the first time we met, I said, why didn't racquetball make the cut? Because we have, there's more racquetball players than squash players, and squash made the cut for RSPA, and racquetball didn't. So it was funny. I think I got under his skin the first time we met, just because that was the first question I asked.
Did you get an answer?
He just basically said that there wasn't the coaching infrastructure there, that racquetball was
Okay.
sort of a looser affiliation of amateur players and, some competitive players, but that the US in particular didn't have the coaching infrastructure. And I don't know one way or another, because I've been out of the game for so long. I don't know if that's true or not. I can tell you I don't know any racquetball coaches. So that, that
That is a question. But I don't know a lot of table tennis coaches either, but just because I
well,
only
there you
know
go.
3 doesn't mean there aren't any.
Yeah, yeah. And I did work when I was in Atlanta. I worked at Windy Hill, and they have a very successful squash program. So, I mean, I at least was around that, and I've seen that there is a dedicated sort of sect of squash players. At least there were.
Yeah, that makes sense. Bobby, you got anything else before we hit him with King of Tennis?
no, I was just impressed that he said paddle. I thought
I
that's what that
I know.
moment weeks ago. It's like, oh, he's listening to the podcast and realized we all pronounced it wrong. But now he
Yeah.
had him.
Well, but I also, like, being from Chicago, or having lived in Chicago, I don't call platform paddle. I call it platform. And so that there's no overlap. But for me, that was always like people said, oh, well, it gets confused with paddle tennis. And that's not paddle tennis to me. That's platform. So I have no problem saying paddle because I know which one I'm talking about.
Then not to be confused with padel, which is different from platform tennis. So it's an interesting combination of things that thankfully we don't really have to navigate because not a big deal unless you talk to Patricio Mesitrano, right?
There you go.
All right. Well, Seth, I appreciate it. We appreciate it. Our last question, we finally get you alone this time. Last time I got to ask this question, it was targeted and you were one of three, but we would love to know if you were king of tennis, whether it's the whole world, whether it's professional tennis, social, local to Georgia, anywhere, whatever level you consider, if you were king of tennis, is there anything you would do or change?
It feels selfish to say it, but I want to say that it is still appreciation for the certifications, calling yourself a professional versus just some guy who plays tennis and keeps a basket of balls in the trunk of the car. It is so important to me that the industry is protected by that. And I saw during a college football game in a very big market, I saw a commercial for is your is your financial planner a certified financial planner? And I was like, somebody spent a lot of money to put this commercial out here. And I didn't know what a CFP was. I knew, of course, there was a CPA, and I didn't, it makes sense that there's a CFP, but that's a ton of money thrown at a big market of people to make that distinction. Then a week later, my wife went to take our kid to the dentist, and on the wall, scrolling on a TV in the dentist office or in the orthodontist office was, "Did you know that not all orthodontists are certified orthodontists?" And I was like, "This is incredible." Like every industry seems to have this problem, but the people that are dedicated to the industry and the people that are dedicated to their craft want measure of respect. And I think if I had it my way, I would love for everyone to know that there is a difference between someone who is a professional and someone who is just a player or just that's I think it is a different echelon of person, different attitude about the game. And that's what I would love for everyone to know that and to at least appreciate it.
Bobby, I'm going to start and then I'm going to ask you what you think because I'm going to point out to Seth the obvious. To me, it's obvious to me. Seth, you are director of rackets at a fancy country club with a wonderful job. And the guy who is uncertified has a basket of balls in his trunk and he's teaching in a neighborhood. I think we know the difference.
Oh, I'm with Seth on this one, though. I thought we'd gotten the answer. I was like, because that's what we've been railing about, especially when you're in a country club where you have the PGA card where the golf pro is genuflected in front of because he holds a
Mhm.
PGA card. And, you say, well, I'm now RSPA certified. And they're like, what's that? And I think what Seth's saying, and I completely agree with him. And I hope this is part of the role the USTA is going to take just because of the name recognition. It's going to raise the idea of certification to another level. I think from an industry standpoint, you would get more people motivated like Seth to continuing your education. I mean, I remember when this USPA or USPTA back in the day came up with where you can take a concentration in the physical aspects of it, the kinesiology, or the business side. And I called them up. I said, great, I have a master's degree in sports administration. I've been a tournament director. And I've been a couple of tennis startups. They were like, great, you should probably get into kinesiology then. And I was like, what? My background is business and you're telling because I'm not spending money. So, why would I've already got these degrees. So I think if you put some panache and some weight behind the certification, people would be more apt to continue to learn like every other to just be the differentiator and set yourself apart. So I'm really rooting for that with the USDA taking it over. Like I said, when I heard Seth saying that, I was laughing. I was like, did we send him an answer? And he's just reading it? Because I mean, that's part of the reason we started this is to try to raise the level of the to people understand that you have a certified instructor. Like you said, you have to have a certification to cut hair. We deal with young children. There were no background checks and there were no license to do it. It's crazy.
Well, and I'm
Crazy.
interested when I saw the commercial during college football. Like I have a degree in music business. I know what that time costs. I know what performance royalties are, and I know how that whole industry's set up, right? So when I see a humongous audience getting told about certified financial planners, it occurs to me like, why didn't I see any commercials during the US Open about RSPA or PTR? That would have been worthwhile money spent to throw a little bit of money at a national commercial about certification right then. And I think that's something I would love to see.
I agree. I think we all would. Like Bobby said, it's one of the reasons we started doing this. This podcast, Go Tennis, got into the American Racket Sports Association. One of the reasons we're there is to raise the level and shine a light and say, hey, we should have some continuing education. We should have some certifications. But I still think people know the difference because I'm pretty sure that when you applied for that job, there were exactly 0 uncertified coaches that applied for that job.
But I think the problem is the trickle down, Shaun, is that you get too many guys with a hopper in the back of a car. How many kids do we lose? How many players do we lose that we never make it to see the better coaches because their first experience wasn't a good one, or their first experience didn't know how to get a partnership with the club down the street that offered the next step? That's always been I mean, when you get to the highest levels, yes, you're always gonna get the cream rises, but what do we lose at the bottom? Since we have a real issue in the sport with younger players, younger coaches, I think that's the place where you could sit there and look at it and say, is that guy with a hopper or even just the guy who can hit a ball? Just because, and I've said it 10,000 times, Bill Belichick didn't play football. So don't judge by how you play. We're coaches. We're not players. We got to look the part, but we're coaches. You have to be able to communicate. It's a different skill set.
All right, fine. The award-winning director of the year wins. I get it. But I had to throw it in because we got to make sure the point that we're here, the main
Right.
reason is to remind everybody, Seth, you are the award-winning what is it, USTA Georgia
Thank,
director of the year. So congratulations on that. And Steph, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here. Bobby, as always, I
Thanks,
appreciate
Jack.
it, gentlemen.
yep.
We'll keep in touch.
Thank you guys. I love it. I appreciate you both.
Thank you now.